Okay, well, what I'm going to start with is this history of marshals, and we'll kind of go over how Marshall got started, and we'll have a lot of comments from different people regarding their experiences up here. So Marshall started its first operation for a rope tow in 1937 when the land belonged to Olaf Olson. It was a crude ski tow constructed from motorcycle parts and powered by a one-cylinder motor. All of the stuff in the early days was gasoline powered because we didn't have electricity up at Marshall yet. And then Mr. Marshall Moy and his friends cleared the first run, the side of the Junior Hill. The Missoula Ski Patrol, later called Marshall Ski Patrol, was started in 1938, and it was technically the oldest ski patrol in the nation. It was the oldest registered ski patrol in the nation. And Marshall was then sold to Glenn and Lillian Denny in 1950, and the Dennys had developed a 3-day-a-week skiing schedule with 2 rope tows in operation when they sold Marshall to Sain Velma Green in 1957. The Greens extensively groomed the runs, and a 3rd rope tow was added in 1959 when the Challenger one was created. And we have their daughter Carla Green here that will give more of her memories of growing up, because she was just a child then. Right, Carla? And the Champion run was opened in 1960. A 4th rope tow was added in 1961. The Upper Challenger run was created with the installation of the Palma lift in 1965, and the Red Wing run was opened in 1968. The installation of the T-bar in 1969 greatly expanded skiing with the addition of the Upper Aurora and Upper Red Wing runs. The Karen and John, and they were named after Sain Velma's son and his wife Karen Field Green, who were killed in a car accident near St. Ignatius. So the Karen and John run was cut in 1970. And the triple chair, and actually it was the first triple chair in the state of Montana, was at Marshall. And it was named in honor of Grant Higgins, a ski patrol member since 1938. And that was done in 1972 with the new triple chair. The original log lodge was built in the 1940s and became a part of the Greens' residence in 1959 when their own home was destroyed by fire. Their first home was a log home right as you came into the Marshall parking lot, where it was big and wide. And that's where it was. And that log home was built by a guy that used to build ships. And Carl will tell you it was a beautiful, well-constructed log home. Marshall expanded the main log lodge 3 times in 1962, 1964, and 1968. And a second lodge that we call the Saloon was built in 1972. Night skiing was started in 1957 when the lower slopes were lit by kerosene flares. Then in 1958, they were lit by gas-powered generators. And here again, we didn't have electricity up at Marshall, and that's why they were gas-powered, And mercury vapor lighting system was installed in 1967, and snowmaking was started in 1972, but it was just a wooden paddle thing. Didn't work worth diddly. And a huge nozzle snowmaker was purchased in 1981, and that was called the Headcoat, and it was a beautiful machine and really created snow. And that was the snowmaker that we would take to snow shows when we went down to Southgate Mall and had the snow shows in various years. But when we had the Headcoat, we had to have 6-inch pipes to pump water all the way up the hill and huge electric service as well. The ski school was originally franchised to Mr. Jack Mitchell, and Jack is here today. He's recovering from surgery. He's right there. And we have his daughter Sharon here. And Sharon learned to ski when she was really little. And we have Jack's wife, Renee Mitchell, here too. And then Jack Mitchell was the ski school director in 1958. Then it went to Bill Erickson until it became a permanent part of the Marshall ski operations in 1967. The ski rental shop was started in 1964 in the basement of the Greens residence, which was now, attached to the Log Lodge. And the popular after-school program was started in 1974, and Sain Velma Green won the Missoula Cup in 1975 for their efforts to develop the skiing industry. In 1983, Marshall was sold to Bill and Marianne Berry of Kalispell, Whitefish area. Bill used to work at Big Mountain, and come on in, Julie. This is Julie Hood. She used to work in the ticket office. And now I lost my place. When Bill Barrier came, he brought a lot of great ideas for improving skiing and starting different kind of programs and getting different type of fun events. Fun was Bill's middle name almost, because he had waiter-waitress races, we'd have toss the beer keg race, and a bunch of other different kind of fun events. And he started the Pro-Am and got that really going, and that's the Wednesday night adult ski racing programs. So with Bill's expertise, and also I should mention that Bill Barrier used to coach Steve and Phil Mayer, the ones that won the gold medals in the Olympics in skiing. So Bill really had a lot of expertise. Many improvements took place the first year, including resloping of the lower Challenger Run. And when we did that, we had to put plywood boards in front of all of the windows and stuff, so when they were bulldozing and making it flat instead of the ravine cut that it had before, so the windows wouldn't break when the rocks come rolling down the hill. And then he also had a heavy snow grooming schedule, and grooming machines were added on a regular basis, and a new run, the North Avenue, was cut in 1985. And the existing runs widened and improved. Bill Barrier won the Missoula Cup in 1987. Then in the fall of 1987, Marshall was sold to Ben and Marjorie Lane of Florence. Ben had been a longtime ski enthusiast, and there wasn't much time for improvement in 1987, but 2 more snowmakers were purchased. And he also sent the snow groomer Dennis to Piston Bully School in Wilsonville, Oregon, south of Portland, and that's how strong Ben was in developing Marshall. At that same time, he also owned Snowball, and he sold Snowball to the doctors and just continued with Marshall. And with Ben Lane, the continuous, almost daily grooming schedule and snowmaking gave the 1987-88 season some of the best snow conditions, with more runs open than Marshall had had in years. And in the ski rental shop, there was a purchase of 150 pairs of new ski boots, along with replacement of 120 bindings on skis to make an easier step-in system with ski brakes. For 1988, a tractor was purchased to mow the ski slopes extensively so that the ski area could open sooner with less snow. And unlike other ski areas, Marshall has all the trees cut sloped with the ground, and they were mowed on a regular basis, and grass was seeded to help give a really good base so Marshall could open and operate with less snow than the other ski areas. And additional plans were always to go farther up than the T-bar, but that was, never realized, as you well know. But Ben also put in what I ended up calling the Aurora lights to the Aurora side of the T-bar. And I'll let Dennis, their snow groomer, tell you about how we ended up purchasing these very, very nice lights.
Well, this was in the summer of '88. Bonner Mill was on strike here, and I was working for JTL at that time. Now it's Knife River. We were rebuilding the log yard in Bonner, and they were going to put a new log yard out there, and they run it through a computer. How many lights do we need to light an area equivalent to 3 football fields? Well, there was 11 poles out there with 9 lights per pole, and when they turned them on to test them, they almost fried the paint off the houses. And in Bonner, there was so much light. They decided they could get by with about 3 lights per pole. So they had 36 extra lights that they didn't know what to do with. They'd been used. They couldn't return them. And so I was working there, and I told Ben about I was working at the mill here on that rebuild, and I was helping Ben on the side. And I told him about all these lights were available, and he went and talked to them, and he bought all 36 lights for about $300 a light.
$100.
They were $100 a light. So we had a nice session of installing lights. Mr. Ken Wishart, he's here someplace. I got to give him a hand. As we were installing them lights, the snow was coming, and our pickups were all lighting the Aurora side and climbing them pine trees to hang the lights and wire. Mr. Wishart deserved a real healthy round of applause for him hanging on them tree climbers and that climbing belt for hours while Ben and I were rigging up lights and passing them up to him.
I've never really climbed before.
He'd never been a tree climber, but here he climbed them pine trees and hung up there while Ben and I were getting the wiring set up and passing the wiring up and lowering tools down and back up. And so there was hours cold up there, and Ben sitting in the back of my pickup because it had a canopy, so no snow was falling on the lights. So it was an exercise, and the first night we turned them on, we could see town, and there were several reports. People called the airport and wanted to know, was there an airplane crash or something? You could see this big glow up on the mountains that night. And we didn't, had we known that, we'd have made sure there was some news coverage of that. So that's on the lighting system. And one thing I would like to say, we got in the front row here, we have 4 very distinguished ski patrollers or ski schoolers from Marshall that help keep that system running. Dave Felon, he was ski school director for many years. He worked with my wife when they started the after school program. It was called ASP, After School Program. And Velma says, no, It's Anna Sain's program, and she run that for 17 years, drumming up the after school, and Dave Felon helped her get started. George Olson was a ski instructor, Dusty Deschamps, L. Williams, all fantastic, part of the Marshall family. Jack Mitchell back there, he was a ski school director before Dave Felon. And we have Harley Schwartz back there. He's kind of the head of the ski patrol. He'd been there. He was the lifeblood of the ski patrol for many years. Well, we got a nice family here, and I'll get us back to Anna for a minute.
So you're probably wondering, oh my God, how did I get involved in the after-school ski program or be in the ski school secretary? Well, I have a picture here of my son JC that the Missoula took in 1968. Well, okay, he was 5. I had him when I was 1. And come on, give me a break, guys. No. So, but this was our first year of working up a season pass at Marshall. Well, the first day that Dennis and I were up there, Velma, who just goes trunking right up to the top without catching a breath, Dennis cut logs and I'm piling them and stacking, and we were filling in the run on the north side of the Challenger where it came down and up, and we were filling it in with logs, smaller logs on the bottom and bigger logs on the top. And oh my God, I never worked so hard in my life. And that was in my thin days too. And so I went and asked Velma, oh geez, is there something I can do around here to help you? She says, well, you can answer the phones and stuff. So I learned to work in the office instead of climbing the hill and piling wood. And so then Velma says, are you any good at the checking account? Well, some of you longtime employees like Julie Hood will tell you, Velma and the checking account did not get along. And she says, I'm off $14 here someplace. If you can find it, you know. So I did find it, so that's how I ended up working in the office. And then a position came open when Joyce quit being the ski school secretary with Dave Felon. So I took that job, and herein started everything. Then the next year, one of Velma's neighbors, and I think it was Marjorie Harper, but I can't say for sure, was up visiting Velma, and she happened to say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had a program or something after school where the kids could come up since we're so close? And I said, wow, yeah, let's do it. Velma says, what? And I says, yeah, let's do it. We need to get the buses. Well, she says, well, I can call Rod and Lucas at Missouri Lines, and I can get buses. Then Velma says, but we better not do it without permission. And I says, okay. So she went and talked to the City Parks and Rec, and they sponsored the first after-school program, but Velma was scared to venture alone, so she called Snowball and asked him if Snowball wanted to do this too. Sure. So the first 2 years it was Marshall or Snowball, and they could mark whatever ski area they wanted to attend when they filled out their registration forms. Then the second year, I don't know what happened at Snowball, if it was the road or the terrain was not suitable for whatever, but people would mark out on the stuff and cross out Snowball and almost scratch the pen through the paper. So something had to have happened, and Marshall ended up doing it solely after the first 2 years, just being Marshall ski area. And we could process the kids that needed rentals through the rental shop real fast. I would ask on their registration form the shoe size and the skiing ability, as well as the weight of the child, so we could set their bindings. So they were all preset ahead of time. We'd mark it like Lewis and Clark School, Meadow Hill School, or Bonner School, whatever that day had. So each school had their own with their names on it, the stickers, and we would preset up the bindings for that individual. So the student just had to come in and say, my name is Carla Green, I'm going to Bonner, and it would be all set up and we'd give everything to the kids, you know, first their boots, then we come back and they would give their skis and we could process a whole bunch of kids in and out of that door, 25 minutes generally, sometimes 15 or 20, depending on how many schools were on that bus. Then I met every bus on the first day and showed them how to get in and out of their equipment and what to say when they got to the ski rental shop and all of that stuff. So it was, you know, just a real simple way to process a lot of kids in 2.5 hours time, because we pick them up right as school let out, and we went in one group and got the schools in one area. Then that was their day, and we had a Monday through Friday system of 5 weeks of lessons. Then when Bill Barrier came along, this program was quite popular, and so we added a second session, and that was Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday. And there's nothing to give you a confidence that you've done a really good job than the teachers to complain, oh, Joey, I could take it during the first session. He was just excited. Tuesday, then of course Wednesday, his skiing day, then Thursday. But when you went to 2 days, he was excited on Monday, then of course Tuesday, then Wednesday, then of course Thursday. And so, you know, it's nice to have the children that excited and enthusiastic. I have turned people away. One time it was a mother that the one daughter was in the after-school program on the first session. Then she wanted to get her other daughter on the second session, and I would sometimes have to tell them, I'm sorry, it's not in the interest of your first daughter, because she's feeling so good about herself, to have somebody else that can do the same thing she needs to do. This person needs to shine. So I took a personal interest in the kids, because at home they were your children, but when they were at Marshall, they were my kids. And I took good care of my kids. And on the first day of the after-school program, the kids would get on the bus for the return trip home, and I'd have to go through the parking lot and the ski area to look for lost souls, because Mom said she was going to pick me up. Well, Mom meant she'll pick them up at the school, but the children didn't always understand that, so I always had to take kids home on the first time. After that, then they all knew what to do. But I would like to turn this mic over to Dave Felon. He's going to say a few words about, you know, the early years. And, oh, don't frown at me, David. Gotta stay here.
Well, the early years. Well, there's a couple people here that go back a little farther than I do, I think. I guess I'll just say I'm very honored and privileged to have been part of Marshall Ski Area. I first visited Marshall in 1955. I had just come over here from Wallace, Idaho. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Wallace, that's where a couple of college friends of mine stopped one day and waited all night for the red light to change. So, well, I grew up at Lookout Pass, I'm proud to say. I started skiing there in 1941, before the lodge was built. Anyhow, what was I supposed to, I lost.
You were talking about skiing at Lookout.
Yeah, okay. Well, back to Marshall. I first visited Marshall in '55, and I'd come over here, and a friend of mine, a co-researcher, said, I want to take you up to a ski area. And they weren't skiing, but I first had the good fortune to meet the Greens. And Ivana was in there. Carla was, I don't know where Carla wasn't very far along, I don't think, anyhow. So we were going to have lunch. And we had brought a lunch, but I ordered a glass of milk. And my dear friend Felon says, well, I can't sell you any milk, but I'll give you a glass of milk. Well, I said, I've got some money here and I'm prepared to pay for it. It was goat's milk from the nearby pasture. Anyhow, later on, I started skiing up there. My kids started skiing there. My dear wife started skiing there. Then I started teaching there. And then I had the good fortune to be the ski school director. And that was a lot of fun, a lot of work. We had a great bunch. I don't know how many are here, but there's a couple of distinguished fellows right here in the front row. Anyhow, we had a good time. And part of the highlight was stopping at the cabin lounge on the way home. The cabin is now defunct, but anyhow, that was part of it. So anyhow, I'm just happy to have been involved, and I have a lot of great memories. Thanks a lot.
Dave is very, very modest. Velma used to love to have fashion shows. The different ski shops in Missoula, they would come out with their latest fashion wear and their latest sweaters and stuff like that. And Velma would have a little luncheon for the ladies for the fashion show. And Mr. Felon would bring his homemade wine that we couldn't charge for either. And he supplied many fashion show luncheon with liquid refreshments. And also, are you able to come up, Jack?
I'll just say a word.
Oh, well, Jack had surgery earlier this week, and he was our first ski school director. And we had instructors that just weren't college kids. Some were log home architects, some were county attorneys like Dusty Deschamps. We had dentists such as Mr. George Olson. If you want to improve your smile, please see Dr. Olson. And a whole bunch of people that were very varied in their profession.
I'm not really used to I'm not really used to having unions for skiing in church. It hasn't happened very often. had a great time, and I'll be 85 years old next week.
Awesome.
I'm really delighted.
Teaching them how to ski.
Well, I didn't really teach my children how to ski, I just turned them loose. I used to ask my daughter, or used to ask me about my daughter, I said, no, her diaper used to freeze right on the ski. I think I gotta sit down before I fall down.
You want to talk about it? No, you.
I was asking Jack to tell about his daughter just a race, and she wanted to race, and Jack knew how expensive racing could be, and Sharon won her first race and decided that made her happy, and she didn't need to do that anymore. And Jack's pretty happy about that.
And next, we're going to have Sain Green's daughter, Carla, who grew up at the log house and then had to live in the attic of the log house until they built an addition to their house. Unfortunately, the student architect built a flat roof, and a flat roof in a ski area is not so good an idea because we always had to deal with the leaks. But I want you to notice, maybe you can get over here so the camera can see these boots that Carla's wearing. We're having a model show. But then Carla will tell us some of her experiences and memories of her parents, Sain and Velma Green.
Thanks, Anna. I was wondering what I was going to say, so.
Get close to that boogie.
Okay.
There's a second mic.
All right. I don't think I want to go there. But my main impression of my mother is basically running helter-skelter, literally with something in the summertime, well, all the time with some kind of a tool in her hand. Or the phone. You know, back in the, I guess one of the main things is, I took over, basically, I took over being the domestic of the family, doing the laundry, dinner. I kicked Mom out of the kitchen when I was 9 years old because she'd go flip a hamburger, go load someone on the lift, go sell a ski ticket, go, she was like, whoa, Mom, just get out of the kitchen, don't come back here. And so I started doing that very, very early. My dad, he was kind of relegated to the rope tow, and loved to pack with the Ski-Doo, and he had a lot of fun with that machine. And in the beginning, he worked at Bonner Mill, more or less for the support, to be able to support us having a ski business that didn't make a whole lot of money. We lived on $13,000 a year. On our SBA loan, we were allotted $13,000 a year, which is less than $1,000 a month. We never had furniture. We lived right there at the business. I never saw new furniture. I never saw a new car. I never saw new clothes. We hardly ever. We didn't do much. It was a tough life, and I think a lot of people appreciated the fact that that my parents tried extremely hard to keep the prices down, even though we didn't make a lot from it, and we kept the prices. So my mom's motto was that anybody that wanted to ski could ski, and anybody that wanted to could come up and work off a pass. And my mom would even, anybody that forgot their lunch money would always have something to eat. And so I guess those are some of my memories. It was a really hard thing. My dad was disenfranchised a lot. He always got credit for being the manager, but he was since it was my dad's dream, because he had started a ski club back in Michigan, in Pontiac, Michigan, and then they found there was a ski area for sale in Montana. So anyway, I mean, I don't know where to start or where to end here, because I could go on and on. It's fun to see all the lovely faces from my past, and with my parents gone, it's nice, and it's really nice. We ought to do this more often, because I need my Marshall family, and so it feels really good. Like I said, I could go on and on. For memory's sake here, just for the fun of it, I put the boots on. I don't even need to catch the Katie Carpus too, right? Do you remember how many of you remember the old champion rope tower? Jack, I think Sharon and I up there when we were 7, I think. And the thing went like this. And I don't know. How many of you remember that? And when it would ice over, it was it took, if you were riding up and there weren't very many people, that rope was heavy. You remember that?
No, you shouldn't use that word. Your mother called that hardpack, and we never used it.
Hardpack. Okay, I'm going to tell the last gathering he had, Jack gave his recollection of the snow report, which was we have 3 inches of goat turds with the light frost.
That was a ski report that morning.
That was a ski report. And I tell you, I have to, in defense of, weather can change so fast, the snowpack can change so fast, I just have to defend the ski reports, because, my parents tried really hard to be extremely honest, integral people, and, and people come on the ski report all the time, but that's just a tough one, really, really tough one. So, but, I don't know, what else should I say?
Carla,
Huh?
we who had daughters your age,
Yes,
we remember Terry Thomas,
Terry Thomas.
the Mitchell girl.
Yes.
You invited them to stay overnight. They saw a goat give birth in town. They had no idea things like that occurred. Goat's milk. I
Goat's
think
milk.
you were allergic to cow's
Yeah,
milk.
that's what, yeah.
You gave our daughters a great life.
Thank you. They enriched mine too, for sure. Summer times, actually growing up on the hill, Kathy and back there, my niece, and they came in '65 and they had a trailer in the parking lot, and we're there on a lot of the time, and shared a lot of memories up on the hill. That was fun. And,
The house burned down.
huh? Tell them about the house. Here, Sharon, you tell that one. Come on, you tell that one. Sharon's turn to talk. Sharon and I started hanging out in 2. Then I come back. Nah, I don't know. There.
For those of you that don't know, this is Jack Mitchell's daughter, the one that learned to ski with frozen diapers.
Well, the day that the cabin burned down, I always remember, because I loved playing in the creek. In the winter, I loved playing in the creek, and Velma would say, "You're going to fall in the creek and through the ice and drown, so don't go down there." So the day the house was burning down, we had asked Velma if we could go to the house and see the new kittens that were in there. So, okay, you can go. So that's the last they heard of me and Carla. The next thing I know, Carla and I are down playing at the creek, and the house was burning down behind us, but we didn't know. The next thing I know is my dad running down the beginner's slope of Snowball, screaming my name. Marshall, sorry. Running down the beginner's slope of Marshall, screaming our names, and all I thought was, boy, are we in big trouble. I'm in the creek. And Dad just ran up to us and hugged us, was all happy. I'm like, what's going on? But the house was burning down and they thought we were in there. So we weren't, so here we are. But I also wanted to say my 2 favorite stories about Velma and Sai. When we were little, I was always had the best ideas. And Velma took that I was always bossing Carla around. So she took me aside one day and she goes, I want you to let Carla have some, ideas. I thought, okay, so I'd always ask, Carla, what do you want to do? And she'd go, I don't know. Carla, what do you want to do? I don't know. Carla, do you want to do this or this? I don't know. So I was really frustrated, and I went to Velma and I go, I can't do this, Velma. Carla has no good ideas. And Velma looked at me and she goes, well, I appreciate you trying. Continue on. And so I got to be bossy. And then with Sain, I was always never really knew Sain very well. He was kind of aloof, I always figured, for me. But they had 2 horses, Taffy and Francis, and I loved horses. When Carla and I were about 10, we got to go take the horses for a ride. And when we were coming back, we had to go past underneath the rope tow in front of the lodge. And the horse spook that I had, he didn't want to go under, but I made him. And he got under the rope tow, and the rope got caught on the saddle horn, and the horse just freaked out, ran. He actually pulled 3 poles out of the ground that was holding the lift, and then bent a couple more, and it was a big mess. And I was so scared that Sain was just going to really be mad. And he just came up to me and he hugged me and he goes, that could have happened to anybody. And so anyway, they were very forgiving for such a monster I was up there. I spent all my summers up there, and I really appreciated Sain and Velma. They gave me a whole different view of life.
Thank you, Sharon. Carla did mention how her parents really saved a lot of money and they didn't spend a lot of money. But Carla would tell me how they got their spare change. Every spring, they go in front of the lodge, in front of the ticket booth, and scour the grass for coins. Most of the time, they found somebody's lost keys or something like that. But they found a lot of silver dollars back then, and 50 cents, quarters, and that kind of stuff. So that was another little thing that Carla taught me to do in the spring, look for moolah. And so my husband, I think he wants to talk about some of his experiences doing the grooming, because people that had been skiing Marshall for a while could tell from the parking lot, oh, looks like Dennis groomed again today. So, one moment. Make sure you're in front of this podium.
Well, when Ben took over the area, he called me. I was in them areas of transition when Champion had got rid of all of its company loggers, and I was at the age where everybody doesn't want to hire a 50-plus-year-old guy anymore who has experience. They want a 20-year-old with 40 years experience. And so I was kind of between jobs, and Ben hired me that first year at $5 an hour. I just barely beat unemployment compensation, but I took it. And Ben asked me what I could do with that equipment, and I said, well, I built a lot of roads. I skidded some steep ground. The steep ground doesn't bother me one bit. So he sent me out to Portland, Oregon, or to Wilsonville, just south of Portland, where the Piston Bully had a big headquarters. And I spent a week out there in Piston Bully school, learning how to run the Piston Bully. And in the school, they taught me some tricks how to tweak the machine a little bit, which helped. And so I started grooming, and it just, being a road builder, it just come natural to know. I'd seen what had happened in the past with the grooming, and we opened up the T-bar my first year of grooming with about 6-inch base that lasted until we got more snow. I mean, we'd opened the T-bar early. We'd lost our notes here. I had in my notes the complete 88, 89 year of every day we were open, every day I groomed, and how many hours I had spent each day of grooming for the whole season. It had the whole season there, and I can't remember the days, but we opened on December 16th that year, which was pretty early for Marshall. But when I was in high school, us high school kids, we'd get together well, let's go up and ski Sain Velma's frosty weeds. That was pretty much it. You could get a free lift ticket that day if you would go up on the lift and sidestep all the way down to pack for them. And the grooming was just part of the knack. The trails were something that had to be groomed daily. The big switchback was always a mean place because everybody cut the inside of the corner and it was skied down to the dirt every day. So it was patch and pave every night on the trail system. And another little anecdote on Sain Velma, in 1959, before the house burnt, a bunch of us kids, we'd quit skiing. We were in the living room visiting with everybody, and that was 59. The Winter Olympics are going to be in 1960 in Squaw Valley. And Cy had this big plan. Him and Johnny were going to go to Squaw Valley to watch the Winter Olympics. They planning that, and Velma says, I don't know where you're going to get the money to go, but you're not going with my money. So Johnny and Cy didn't go to Squaw Valley that next year. Of course, the house had something to do with it. And the year they put the chair in, triple chair, man, that moved. Cy's big thing was move skiers. He did not want lift lines. And we had a partial lift line on that triple chair. And the line was probably back to just about even with the house. And that upset Cy. So he grabbed some more guys and they run over and started the Palma. So he's got guys going up the Palma and up the chair. Pretty quick, Velma comes outside and had a little family meeting in front of the public out there. But Cy, you know we can't afford to run both lifts at once. And Cy said, we can't afford to have skiers standing around. And they went on back and forth about 10 minutes, and then the Palma was shut down. And Velma, when I go up to cut brush in the fall, she'd have these piles of brush covered with a plastic tarp. And I'm looking September, early October dry. Velma says, we're going to burn today. And I think, God, Velma, we can't do that. It's not a good thing. But she'd go up and burn, and somebody watching over it, the pile's burnt and nothing else. So it was a great experience working up there. Cy and I'd be cutting edge of runs and cutting brush. And one day Cy says, why don't we take a break and let's go for a hike? We hiked up this ridge and went to the top of Velma's mountain. He said, I'd like to put a run up this way someday. And we blazed a trail. And then when Ben owned the place, he called me one day and he said, you want to come up? I want to put a new run in. I want to get your opinion of it. So we hiked out there and he had these ribbons. And I said, you know, Ben, about 10 feet behind them ribbons, see them blazes on them trees? He said, yeah, I wondered about that. About 20 years ago, Cy and I hiked up there laying this run out about 20 years ago. I says, you and Cy weren't too far off on this run. So that was the year we put the ridge run in. Ben was a little funny at times. He had to be in charge of everything. That when we put roller coaster in, I had gone up with a cat that year. It had a brush rake, and I had up on the Red Wing and the Aurora and Karen and John and any of them stumps that were close to the surface, I rooted them out and covered the holes up. And he was hauling them off and burying them in the ravine. So he couldn't bother me when I put roller coaster run in. And he come over about a week later and he says, you're all done? And I said, yeah, you weren't bothering me. And when we rebuilt the trail system that from the dog leg in the draw down to the big switchback, that was a steep piece of trail that the beginners had trouble with. Well, we flattened that grade out. Well, I had an Abney level for doing road where I gave that to Ben. Well, he would go out there with my Abney. He'd hang about 10 flags for me. Then he'd go do something else. Well, I'm on the dozer. 10 flags is about 2 hours worth of work. So I go get Ben. I said, Ben, I need more flags. So he'd hang another 10 flags. Finally, I said, Ben, just get out of the way and let me do it. And he's, how do you know what you're doing? And I said, the road's going from here to there to a straight line. So we had a lot of fun up there. Working with Ben was different. in the fall, we made a list in the shop of everything. We got to lube the chair, we got to check all the shivs, and make sure the T-bar, put all the electrical back in the T-bar, because at one time the lightning hit the T-bar and blew the electrical out of the T-bar, so every year they would pull that big panel box out of the T-bar, and we had to go put that in and make the T-bar, check all the snow system, and make sure all the snowcats were running, the snowmobiles as well as the snowcats. And Ben would come in about twice a week and give us a lecture. That money doesn't grow on trees, and we got to be more efficient with our time. We can't be wasting a lot of time doing odd things. And we're standing for an hour listening to Ben, and we got a list on the wall of things. We're thinking, why aren't we working instead of listening to Ben? But he was a character, and we had a lot of fun with Ben. And, I can't think of anything else right at the moment.
That's odd. But anyway, he was talking about Ben and Marge, and they were wonderful, wonderful people. And they help expand Marshall's grooming and the ski rental shop and that kind of stuff. But it was Bill Barrier and his wife Marianne Barrier that helped create the fun stuff. And that's why we ski Marshall, because it's fun. And part of the fun things was the Winterfest, because Bill Barrier had gotten Jim Wilbanks from Pizza Hut, because they were brand new in town and they needed some sponsorship. So Jim Wilbanks just loved the after-school program and any of the Saturday and Sunday programs for the kids. So he would give away one free medium pizza coupon to all the kids in the after-school program or the winners in the Winterfest. The Winterfest, we had a whole bunch of different games, skiing backwards through a race course, couples race where a boy and girl would hold hands and ski through a simple race course on the junior hill. We'd have an egg toss, we'd have an obstacle thing where they were on their skis going over hay bales and stuff like that. But it was Jim Wilbanks and later Steve Boone from Pizza Hut that would give us all of these coupons for the Winterfest. And if Dusty Deschamps was still here, he could tell you. Oh, there he is. Just a minute.
I thought maybe you were going to be pizzas.
Well, Dusty, why don't you come on up here and tell about how fun the Winterfest was? Because he and his wife Betsy and the family would hardly miss a Winterfest.
Well, thanks. The reason I went darting out, and I need to tell those of you that know my sister Judy, she's probably not going to make it through for the next 24 hours. She's very ill, and I had my phone's on buzz, and it was buzzing. I thought, oh God, I better go down to the hospital. Well, it turned out to be Becky, my wife, wondering if Carla Green was here. So I ended up getting Becky and coming back. But the Winterfest, one of the events that they had was a family ski races, and if your family would take the highest or do the best on the race course, then you'd get peaches on these coupons. So I'd get my kids up there and me, and they always did pretty well, and I was passable. But we could get Becky up there and say, now if we can just even get her to just, she can slide her bottom through these things, but if she just finishes it, we're going to win a pizza. So we'd drag her up there, get her to compete in these races so we'd get pizzas. And I think one winter we must have got maybe 30 or 40 pizzas. I don't know. Every weekend we had a big fistful of pizza coupons. That was a lot of fun. So that's what I can tell you about the Winterfest, Anna.
Well, what I remember, one time Dusty was up skiing by himself. Winterfest! Gets on the phone. Betsy, hurry up and get up here. Anna's having her Winterfest again. So Is there anyone else that would like to make some comments about their early days? Renee? Harley. Harley is Mr. Ski Patrol. This is Renee Mitchell, Jack Mitchell's wife.
I just want to say a couple of words. I first went to Marshall. I had entered the university here, and I had never skied as a kid. It just wasn't something that my parents did, and I grew up in Billings, and I didn't have friends that skied, but I did when I came to college. And I remember one Monday, there was a holiday, and my friend Vicki said, well, let's go up to Marshall. And we drove up in the parking lot, and there were maybe a dozen other cars there, but the lifts weren't operating. And Velma came out. She said, we usually aren't open on Monday. But she said, I will turn on the palm lift if you promise me that nobody will get hurt because we do not have any ski patrol here today. And she ran the palm lift for us for a couple of hours, and we were just happy as could be. Imagine that happening in today's society? I don't think so. Ken Brayon was my hero of the day. One day, before they had bulldozed the face of the hill and made it a little easier for people like me to ski. And I'm coming down there, sliding. It felt like way faster than it probably was. And here comes Ken Brayon, and he's just a little bit of a guy. Skis across in front of me and catches me, stops me. And I could have killed him. I mean, you know, because I was going so fast, and he knew how to ski and knew what to do, and he saved my life, and he was my hero for the day. Jack and I had our wedding reception up at Marshall. Velma was kind of like a surrogate mother to just about all of you in this room that knew her, and I'm sure Jack especially felt that way, and that was pretty special. Jack and Carla also shared the same birthday. So one time on his birthday, I said, I want to have a surprise, and I talked with Velma, and we had decided to have a party up there. We would get a keg, and I would bake a ham and a turkey, and we would get people to bring dishes and come up, and we would surprise Jack and Carla. So I take off work in the morning. He thinks I've gone to work, but I've gone over to my friend's house to bake a ham and a turkey and get it up to Marshall and get it all set up. So that evening, I said, well, what should we do? Maybe we should just go up to Marshall and have a drink, because it's Carla's birthday too, you know. And he said, okay. So we drive up to Marshall, and we're sitting in the kitchen. And of course, Sain had his MD 2020, I think that was his trademark drink, and we're having a glass of wine, and I'm looking at the little headlights come by pairs up, and I know what's happening, and pretty soon we go out in the room, and surprise! Jack was truly surprised. Carla told me later, she said, I knew something was up because I saw the keg tap in the kitchen under the counter, and my mom usually didn't keep one of those around. But everybody in this room knows what a special family we all belong to. Thank you.
I have, we'll have to go back here because Harley can't probably walk up there, but he has some things about the ski patrol.
I will only talk about the ski patrol. And when I first came here, there wasn't a snow bowl. There was a snow park.
Oh.
And it was on the other side of the mountain from TV Mountain. I went up there one time, and I had an oval wheel at the time and no chains, and I just barely made it. Came back down and said, I'm not going back up there again. So that was the time that Diamond Mountain out at Potomac closed, and I can't remember the man's name.
Gary. Norm Gary.
Yeah, Norm Gary was the owner of that, and he was on the patrol. The patrol started in 1938. It was the Missoula Ski Patrol, and the National Ski Patrol started in 1930. The Missoula Ski Patrol started in 1937. The reason I can say that is that I've seen the applications of I don't know what they were for, that says 1937 on it. So the Missoula Ski Patrol started 1 year before the National Ski Patrol did. And the year that I was patrol, the first time I was patrol director, I had a sheet, and at that time, no wall had opened. And for my patrol leader, Bar Hill leaders, I had Tom Thomas for Stonewall and George Blake for Marshall, and I had 96 people on the patrol. And I was a first aid instructor when I came to the patrol, and they turned me loose at the Kim Farm building, and the night that I was supposed to teach, I got up and there was like 60-some people. It's just like it was full of students, and it scared the death out of me because normally you run a first aid class of about 15 or 20 people. And at the end of the class, we give a test. And one of the first questions on the test was, who is Minnie Doyle? Now, there's a few people that know who Minnie Doyle is, but one of the answers that I can remember was, I don't know who she is. Carla. Minnie Doyle was the founder of the National Ski Patrol, and he met with Grant Higgins back in the 40s before the war, and after the war he met again, and they started. He was kind of surprised that we already had a ski patrol, and part of the ski patrol was incorporated in the Missoula Ski Club. The Missoula Ski Club, I don't know when it was founded. Does anybody know? And they changed the name, when beyond the Missoula Federation Education Skiers or something like that. They changed the name, but I remember that there was talk of chopping the stumps down parallel with the hill, and the man over here next to me, I put a soft sea collar on him because he did a head plan, if he remembers right. And so he came down, and then we examined him, and we put a soft collar on him and sent him home. We also did that to a kid that did a head plant, and I was the team leader that day, and I was made the sweep. And I got down to the patrol room, and here's this kid with this collar on. And Larry Smith was a patroller, and he had examined him, and he was an EMT. for the Florence Fire Department. And this kid says, "Can I take this home?" And I says, "Yeah, I feel very bad." Next morning, my son called me. He says, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" I says, "What for?" He said, "Well, I've got to put a halo on this kid, and he had fallen and broken his neck at C3 and C4. If he had done it at C2, he wouldn't be alive." And we didn't know. We did the palpations and put the collar on and sent him home. He went home, took a shower, went to the Grizz game. Came back, went to bed. Next morning, he woke up with a headache and a stiff neck. And he told his mother what had happened. So his mother went down and took him to the hospital. They took the x-rays and they found that he had a broken neck. And there was no way that we would have known it unless we had a portable x-ray machine, and that we were not in the business for it. And if you can understand me, I had a stroke a few years ago, and my speech is a little bit ragged, but I remember granting as well. I remember putting that chair in. The person that put the chair in was a ski patrolman.
West Hollow. West Hollow.
West Hall.
West Hollow, yeah.
And I got on that, I came up there and talked to Wes. Wes turned out to be one of my best friends. And I said, "Wes," I says, I don't know nothing about putting this ski patrol, but these trees have got to go. And they're right in the cable line. And so the next time I came up, the trees are gone. And so Marshall has a distinction of having the first triple chair in the state. And that was the advertising thing that they did. I stayed with the ski patrol active till 1995, and I retired. And then I went back to work as the Dick Everett's award advisor, and I gave awards to Tom and a lot of other people, and they were all appreciative. And finally it come down to where my knees would let me ski anymore, about 2001, and I finally had to give up skiing, and I've had 9 knee operations. So the only thing that's alive today is the fantasies that I retain. But I remember the first time I met Jack Mitchell was up at Snowball. We just made a sweep. And he was down there in front of the beer stoop. And that was before they had the new beer stoop up there. It was just in the old lodge. And he had a pair of Head 360s. And so I didn't really know him. And he was procrastinating and profanity, which I won't use in a house before. And he grabbed his 360 and he threw it as far as he could into the creek. And he says, "These black skis are where the brain was." I says, "Jack," I says, "those are brand new." "I don't care. I don't care." So, and that's where I met Jack, the Dave Felon was somebody I met when I came up to Marshall. He's the only person that I know of, and I'm sure there are other people that can do a Royal Christie. And if you have to ask what a Royal Christie is, ask him. Because I can't do it. And so,
Most people don't know what a Royal Christie is.
I just show us how to do it, Dave.
wait, about my age.
The Royal Christie, folks, there was a guy named Art Fuhrer who used to be in the ski magazines, and he was an acrobat. A Royal Christie is doing a turn on the inside ski.
I used to do those by accident.
The only other thing that I would want to say was that about my age, Dick Betts and I pulled Grant Higgins aside and said, Grant, we love you, and we love you that you come and sign in, and you never get off of the dope slope. And I says, for your age and radio and telephone, don't you ever take a split down. He was already in his 80s. And so we put the kibosh on him of taking a split down. And I could go on and take the different accidents of that I have worked. But I won't. And Anna, I thank you very much.
Some memories up at Marshall. This is Stan Cohen. One moment.
Just take a minute. I'm kind of an outsider because most of you know. Can you hear me from here?
Our MCAT microphone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of an outsider because I'm actually worked most of my life in skiing at the Snow Bowl, but I had a ski shop, so.
Where?
But in 1974, after I left the Snow Bowl, I ran the ski shop at Marshall. And the old timers here will remember that we used to have a very active ski club here in the 60s and early 70s. It was more a racing club. Well, it was actually racing and recreational both. And I think it was 74, my wife and I put on the snowball. If any of you remember that we had a snowball once a year. And we had it out at Orchard Homes, and we were in charge of it. And I was running the rental shop at Marshall that year. And we put on the ball, and hardly anybody came. And I got so disgusted, I started drinking screwdrivers, and I'm not a drinker. And I got so drunk, it's the last time I've been drunk, which is many years ago. So I finally got home, and I was supposed to run the ski shop Saturday for Velma. And I remember either myself or my wife called up and said, Stan, there's no way in God's green earth that Stan's going to make it up to Marshall Saturday to run the ski shop. And I don't know what they did, but I never made it up there. But I'm glad to see everybody, and I did ski quite a bit at Marshall, off and on, in between Snow Bowl and after I left the Snow Bowl. So it's very great to be here. Thanks.
And I think most of you already know that Stan Cohen has written many books. A lot of them included the topic of skiing. So he does have some literature back there and some books and some DVDs to show you. We were going to show you a DVD that Bruce Doring and his wife Kim put together of the history of Marshall, but it didn't like our disc and we couldn't get it to work today. So, but we do have some slides. It's about 36 quick slides. It'll take about 7, 8 or so minutes, and we'll be showing them. But does anybody else have something else? Did you want to come up here, please?
I'll just do it real quick.
You have to stand by the podium.
Okay. Well, I'm Adele Wolff, and my husband and I came out here in 1962. He was finishing college, but it was my first time out here, and I had a job teaching at Cold Spring School. So I sort of preceded Anna in this after-school program because we had a ski club at Cold Spring School. This was my thing. And we had a Volkswagen bus, and we brought maybe half a dozen kids every weekend to here or some other skate areas, and especially at Marshall. And since there weren't any ski lessons there, we got them started at Marshall because we had somebody teach the kids that I took up there. So that was the beginning of them actually teaching kids there. And I think it might have been Cliff Blake. I'm not sure who started that. And then a little later when we had our own children, we brought them up to Marshall, and who was it? Tom Lukumsky and somebody else, I just forgot his name, would hold my baby while we were skiing, you know. And later they would ski at Marshall, our kids too, of course. And in fact then, when my kids were about 4 or 5 years old, we had little lessons on the rope tow, and Julie Hood, I think one of your kids was that age, and Julie used to help with that too. We even had a nursery when the kids were little for a while up in Velma's living room.
Speaking of Julie Hood, this is a personal note. She was the very first friend I ever met when we came to Missoula. I'm not going to go the year. Anyway, she was my very first friend, and her parents had land with Randy and Ted Jacobs from the First National Bank, because it's Julie Jacobs Hood. And they were longtime friends of Sain and Velma Green. Now, does anybody else have anything they'd like to say and share?
I was going to say something quick.
This is Dave Felon's son, Marshall.
Hello. Got just a short, funny story, but have a lot of good memories about Marshall growing up. And one of my best memories that I still have is just getting off the T-bar, getting off the chairlift as a kid at night. For some reason, those memories stick in your head. And it's in high school, and just getting off the chairlift and going up the old T-bar with friends, and the lights, and just still trying to relive those memories because they were really good. But a real funny story I have is my kids are pretty young, and I was at a function the other day, and this gal came up to me and she said, "Boy, we have really good memories of you teaching skiing, Dave." And she said, "My whole family," she said, "boy, my kids, Logan's kids, the McGinnis family, if any of you know the McGinnises, I don't want to make her feel bad, but she said, boy, we used to have such good memories of you and, the ski school up there at Marshall." I said, "Well, I'm not Dave, I'm Marco."
So is there any familiar?
But anyways, the whole neighborhood when we were young, you see the old Volkswagen buses around, and everybody used to pile into the Volkswagen bus, and I still have friends. A friend of mine, Steve Penson, who coaches football at high school, back then he was about 5'8" and 200 pounds in the 8th grade. And my dad took him up and taught him how to ski, and he broke a few skis, and he still has good stories. But another funny story is, I was just up at Snowball today for all of you who like Snowball. And just a trivia question, who of you can guess who who is sitting behind the ski school counter at Snowball right now? Gary Plato. So he taught skiing with my dad, and he's the first guy I ever skied with at Snowball. One day Gary said, "You want to go skiing at Snowball?" And I said, "Sure." And he had a little Volkswagen Bug, and we went up the little rickety road, and it's the first time I ever skied. So my kids are now taking lessons from him. So good memory. I tried to get some things going last year with Bruce. Tried to relive the memories of Marshall and tried to get the bottom slope open, but there's a lot more involved than I realized, and I didn't have enough time and money. But we did talk to Bruce about trying to get the bottom slope open last year, and like I said, it's just nice to try to relive those memories. There's a lot of young kids in Missoula that head off to Discovery Basin, and a lot of kids in my neighborhood, and I was really had a passion for it. Just didn't have enough time and money. So maybe one year, who knows? Maybe somebody will come out. I was going to call actually a friend of mine from Kalispell. He owns Montana Magazine. He sat down with what's the guy's name that puts on the ski movies every year? Warren Miller. So he said, I saw him one day at a Grizzly basketball game. I said, "Dave, what's going on?" He said, "Well, I just got back from Big Sky." I sat down with Warren Miller for about 3 days, and he wrote a story about Warren in Montana Magazine. So that night I said, I'm just going to call up Warren Miller. I'm just going to call him up and say, "Hey, I need $15,000. We're going to try to get this bottom slope over to Marshall. Could you just donate some money?" Crazy ideas, but good news.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Carla?
I just want to say, I started a Facebook page called Marshall Mountain Memories, and so if anybody has anything, do you want to come and ask us?
She's still wearing those ski boots. I don't know if I'll get them off of her.
They're very comfortable. They're great. I started a Facebook page called Marshall Mountain Memories. I think that's what it's called. So if anybody has anything that you want to ever add to it, if you're on Facebook, want to do that. And of course, I can talk all day, but I won't. Seems to me I was going to say something else, but I guess I won't.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to say something? Anybody? Okay, I will close this then. Then we will show our 36 slides of Marshall. But Marco was busy telling about skiing. Remember, Lookout Ski Area on the way to Coeur d'Alene on the Montana-Idaho border has been offering free ski lessons for children, I don't know, 70-some years. So if your children want to learn how to ski, go to Lookout Ski Area. It's very family oriented. It has a lot of intermediate and beginner terrain. If you want to go cruising for a day, you can't beat Blacktail by Flathead Lake and Summers. So if you want to cruise, go to Blacktail. If it's a gorgeous sunny day, Georgetown Lake is gorgeous from Discovery Ski Area, and go to Discovery. And don't forget, Powder Mountain is Lost Trail Ski Area, and the Grasser family down there is quite similar to a Marshall family. They cater to families as well. They don't have the free skiing that Lookout does, but that's a wonderful place to go skiing is Lost Trail, Powder Mountain. Unfortunately, Marshall will not be opening up as a ski area, but if you want to go to Marshall for birthdays, anniversaries, of which Dennis and I had our 50th anniversary last year, and if you're doing the math, I think I got married before I was born. And, you know, Marshall is really a wonderful place to have any reunion or anniversary or birthday celebration. So just contact Marshall Mountain to make your reservations, and Kim and Bruce will be glad to take care of you. Now we are ready for our slideshow. This is Gary Matson. Will you dim the lights as soon as they get going, please? This is an aerial view. I think Ellen Williams took this photo of Marshall.
Yes, are you gonna tell about these? I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
You got it back.
Yeah. Maybe more. We straightened the ones that had writing on them. We didn't recognize them. I don't know what to say about that one.
I already said it.
Huh?
I already said it.
Oh.
Now, this is a picture when Bill Barrier leveled off the Challenger run and made it smooth sailing all the way down.
Now that picture, that snow, that's the big head coast standard. And it's probably, I would say about 15 degrees just from looking at the snow stream. There is closer, maybe 10 degrees to zero. They've got every nozzle. It has about 30 nozzles that you can, of various sizes, you can open and close.
He kept telling me to go to the podium.
But the nozzles, you can open and close it. Various nozzles depend upon the temperature, and that's a low temperature. That snow stream, it makes feet of snow overnight when that's running at that temperature. There's another cold, that's up on the Challenger run, about halfway up the Challenger. That one's in backwards too.
That's a picture of the Grand Higgins chairlift. This is Robert George Starr, East Missoula's fire department and chairman, in a costume for St. Patty's Day. Well, here's another Bob Starr.
And Bob Starr, for many years, he was a savior for Velma up there. He came up and donated all kinds of time. #1 electrician to keep the electrical service on the hill running.
Bob also made the starting place for the ski races that we had for the Coca-Cola company, Coke races. He built their little starting, kind of like a telephone booth. This, I think, was my son Ron.
Yeah, there it was.
That's my son Ron.
There's this one.
The starting ramp at the Coca-Cola ski races. The head in operation making more snow. It looks like it's on the Red Wing.
Nope. Challenger.
I was stand corrected. It was the Challenger run, taken from the Aurora side. Another picture of the snowmaker. Another picture of that head coast snowmaker.
That's probably 0 temperature there.
There's a picture of Marshall and the 2 parking lots in that flat-roofed section before Adrian Hoy turned it into a clock tower and raised the roof in the saloon.
Dick Betts.
That is Mr. Dick Betts, ski patrolman on your right. There's the finish line of one of the races during Bill Barrier's era. Flipping burgers in front of the saloon. Another picture of people riding the chair. It's in back.
Here's another backwards photo. This is the launch. This is one of the snow groomers. It's not the big piston bully. This one was more of a snowcat thigh car used for moving the snowmakers. This is a Coca-Cola Racers, part of the fantastic group of kids that we help raise here at Marshall. This is part of the group of kids starting for the little kids things. They would have Mickey Mouse little signs and tell them to line up at Pluto or Mickey or Donald Duck. A night photo from the Torchlight Parade, generally New Year's Eve. Another aerial photo of Marshall and his various runs. Yeah, it's backwards too. Here's another picture of the head coast snowmaker. Another picture of the head coast snowmaker. I don't think we have enough pictures of the head coast snowmaker. Dennis put these together. And this is another participant in the, looks like a St. Patty's Day race. Notice the shorts, so that's why I'm thinking it's a March skiing event. This is the starting gate at one of the Coke races. Bill Barrier was very involved in Coca-Cola and having their ski races.
This was before Bob Starr built the start ramp.
There is Robert Sain. He grew up here at Marshall. Another aerial photo of Marshall. And this one's in red. I think we have a whole series of snowmaking photos, and this is Marshall. One of the prize pictures of Marshall. This is night skiing at Marshall. Guess what? I think it's a snowmaking photo. What do you think?
That's
Uh-oh. I didn't put this one in there.
this was the Marshall represented team at the state championships for the Coke races. There were 4 ski areas involved in all of this. Marshall, Red Lodge, Bridger, and Showdown were all involved in the Coke race, and every year, at the end of the year, they would have a state championship. And you can see the Marshall team, we did pretty good that year. Anna took first place, I took second, Jeremy Miles took second, and Rob took second in the state championship. So we were racing against probably about 60, 70 other racers.
Not me, or I wouldn't have gotten the blue. Here's another picture of one of the, it's not a Coke race, but one of the
Junior Olympics.
Junior Olympic type races.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
I thank you all very much for coming. It is so nice to see so many former Marshall employees and some of our skiing friends that we haven't seen in a bunch of years. We all miss Marshall, but do keep on skiing. There's a lot of wonderful ski areas within an hour and a half, 2-hour drive of Missoula. Thank you all very much for coming. Oh, you turned it off.